Why do you think parents are not conceiving? We are in the fifth dimensional energies. The new souls that are coming in now are all 5D beings.
5D.
They're very clear. We want to go into wombs that are clean and clear.
Like, what a great time to live in, I would say.
But if we don't know what's going on, it is one of the darkest times to be living there.
3% of our DNA is genetic and only 5% is karmic. Why I ask this is then there is no past life that I'm accessing. So does that mean that I'm just accessing my own version in a different universe?
In the now.
In the now.
Yes. Karma healing and past life healing primarily is for us to attain moksha. Certain souls choose to awaken the society through their suffering.
And that's the reason
And
pain is so
awaken.
intense and the
Yes.
crime is so intense.
Absolutely.
Does that mean that once I forgive, I have now successfully ended my karmic cycle?
In the next moment, life tests you again. And there you have to choose a new pattern. And that's when you freed yourself. One of my mentors told me that if you could see yourself from the way God sees you, you would touch your own feet.
Oh my God.
We're all living gods on this planet.
Hi, Dr. Lamba. Welcome to Uncharted Conversations. Our team did this entire experience episode with you, and I'm so thrilled to have you on this episode of ours.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for having me over. And I think I'm super excited to be here too.
So let's dive into the conversation straight away.
Sure.
Right? So you have a PhD in quantum physics. You are a somatic psychotherapy expert. You have mastered in spiritual psychology. You believe in healing people's trauma by releasing their past life trauma stored in cellular memory. You have literally learned all these alternative healing modalities from the OGs of the industry, right? From Louise Hay, like she was legendary, right? To Joe Dispenza, to Tim Hoff. How did past life regression come into picture, and what exactly is past life regression, because you're a past life regression therapist too?
In fact, one of my first healing modalities after Reiki I learned was past life regression, because it started with my own personal sufferings in my life. And once you're younger, you're a child, you just live life happily. But once you get married and responsibilities show up, you just the problems start increasing, and something inside me, deep down inside me, there was a very innate intelligence that always told me that I did not come here to be a victim to all of these circumstances in my life. And I always had the power to create an alternate or a better reality. So going by that innate sense that I had within, I knew there's a better life ahead, and I just don't have to suffer what shows up. And that's what really excited me to learn past life.
Interesting. So because it has been mentioned, like past life, karma, reincarnation has been mentioned in so many cultures across the world. And in fact, even if we come to Hinduism, in Hindu culture, we have this thing called Jati Smara, which is actually, I think, past life memory, wherein people recall their past life experiences. So if you can take us to what exactly happens in past life regression and how does it help?
So when you understand the journey of the soul comes here to express itself in this container called life. And there are two primary purposes. One is the role purpose and the soul purpose. Now, in the role purpose, we carry the imprints of the soul of anything that's undone. If I look at it from the physics perspective or energy perspective, energy is meant to be in motion, right? So any unprocessed residual energy that got trapped with my name on it or my imprint on it has my karmic signature on it. And it is my responsibility now to come back and put it back into motion.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we come here with certain unprocessed energies, stuck energies. And our role is to now put that back into motion by reliving the same situations, but with a different choice and a different mindset. And that's exactly what karma is. If I can give you a very, very, very layman or a very silly example, let's assume in this lifetime, you and me are angry people and we're not even connected. But we get into a road rage and a fight, and out of the rage, maybe I kill you. Now, you died incomplete in this lifetime, and your soul carries that imprint, right, of you, me killing you. And now I'm entangled with you karmically. Now, your soul waits for a lifetime where you and I can come back, and you will have an opportunity in another lifetime to kill me.
Right.
It's only an opportunity.
Right.
But at that moment, you could function from awareness and forgive me and not kill me and free yourself from karmic bondage. Right? So that's the whole essence of karma. So we don't have to repeat patterns.
Right.
We always have a choice to break the cycle of karmic entanglement with more awareness and with more spiritual intelligence. However, because nobody explains this, we say, okay, now, we get into that constant loop and we just say that, okay, you give me shit, I give you shit. And we're just entangled in this whole thing. Our soul is carrying every single memory, and these memories are recorded in our DNA, and then they show up in our unconscious memories. So it's all stored within. Past life regression therapy is taking you through those memories so that you can bring them into your consciousness or your awareness so that you can process this differently and make different choices.
So it's more like making sense of that, why this is happening to me, or actually giving yourself a closure also, right?
Yeah, and also freeing yourself from the entanglement of suffering, right? So if you gave me a black ball, I don't have to give you a black ball. I do have I understand that, okay, I have a black ball to give you, but I will choose to give you a white ball. So I free myself from that trap then.
Okay, so interesting, because I also wanted to ask that how much of a role does our emotion have in having those karmic imprints? One is that I did an action, and of course, what you give comes back to you. So it's already recorded and you will get that opportunity and you will face the consequence, right? One is, while I'm doing that action, if I feel guilty or if I have remorse, right? Does that kind of amplify what I'm going to get? Does that emotion also leave its imprint in my soul memory and that also get transferred?
So if you understand this 200%, let's say एक चोर जब चोरी करता है and he justifies it, right? That and he's not guilty, then he might not have to suffer any consequences as much as someone who's robbed something and they're feeling guilty about it. For them, it's instant. And that's why there are a lot of people on the planet who do bad and they're justifying what they're doing bad, and it really doesn't come back to them in a certain paradigm.
Okay.
But currently, the consciousness on the planet is changing and this game is also changing. So, let's say about 20 years back, we were in the third dimension. So if somebody did wrong karma and they were not guilty about it, it would not come back to them. But currently the energy is more fluid and we are in the fifth dimensional energies. So you do bad and it's going to be instant. So the rules of the game are changing as the dimensions change.
Okay, I'm intrigued by the changing dimensions.
Yes,
if you
that's
can,
another.
give an insight.
So if you understand the energy on the planet, do you recognize there's something changing on the planet, right? And this is the change of a yuga, 26,000 years. After 26,000 years, the cycle changes.
Okay.
And what is a yuga or a new age or age? It is where the central sun has his family of all the planets, and they take 26,000 years to revolve around the central sun, the planets and the sun, right? And this also has been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, where scriptures very clearly. So this whole thing takes 26,000 years, and we are on the onset of this transition right now, currently, right? And the entire paradigm is shifting from the third dimension energy to the fifth dimension energy.
So it's not linear, like it's not like third and fourth and fifth.
No, fourth is a transitional dimension. It's a layover.
Oh.
There's no, it's like a dark dimension. So in third dimension, we have life. And then in the fifth dimension, we have material life. But the fourth dimension is more of a transitional dimension. So, and that's what the ascension process is all about.
So fifth dimension has different rules.
Absolutely. It's like playing Candy Crush. And the game is the same, but something changes when you move on to a higher level. But the game is the same. So exactly. So even till date, people in the unaware state, third dimension is a very unaware dimension. So souls in the third dimension living in a state of unawareness, till date, they might murder, they might rob, and consequences may not come back to them because they're just okay doing it. But this But the whole idea is every soul has to move upward. So today they are unaware, but there will be a time where they will have to be aware and change their actions. So to answer your question, and the new souls that are coming in now are all 5D
all
beings.
5D.
So why do you think parents are not conceiving? Right? Because souls are very, very clear. We don't want, because womb trauma bhi to hai. They're very clear. We want to go into wombs that are clean and clear. I have so many couples who come and they go through the womb healing process and their childhood healing process, and then they conceive. A lot is going on the planet which we need to understand. A lot of changes. So the transition of the fifth dimension, what we are talking is the Mother Earth has integrated into 5D. Now we as a collective have to move towards 5D, and that's why so much suffering is happening. Right? You could be in a 3D body in a 5D consciousness. That's the whole idea. Right? In a very simple context, fifth dimension is a crystalline dimension. 3D was a carbon-based dimension. The energy is changing. So even our bodies right now will change from carbon-based to crystalline. We are embodying more light. 5D is more light. And the whole goal is to become pure light.
So that means that in another 26 years...
26,000
26,000.
The next cycle. Then it will transition to the next.
So this
70.
happened now, like this 26,000 transition came now.
Yeah.
Like what a great time to live in, I would say.
It is one of the best times to live on this planet if we know what's going on. But if we don't know what's going on, it is one of the darkest times to be living here.
So going within is easy as at this point of time, because even the
Absolutely.
Earth as an environment is supporting
The outer environment is so
conducive to.
conducive, and that's why these days if you see every moon cycle, new moon and full moon, the energies are so fluid and people are going wobbly because it's an invitation to go within and explore your unhealed emotions. So that you could transit to the fifth dimension. It actually depends on which dimension you're in, what you're feeling, but your emotions definitely amplifies what comes back to you.
Okay. Also, one thing, a very interesting thing that you spoke about right before we started the podcast, that 3% of our DNA is genetic and only 5% is karmic. And still, I think we give so much of significance to that 5% that somehow even in our heads we're kind of trapped in that. Can you take us through that it's only 5% karma?
So, when you look at the human DNA, it carries information about how our journey is going to look like. And we did not come here to suffer. We came here to create. However, everything that's going on in life due to our childhood memories, our programs and our fetal trauma, we put it in the box of karma. Only 5% of our entire life script is based on our karmic incompletions. Right? So we have some karmic sanskars that we bring along. So let's say, for example, if I died as a robber in a past lifetime, I will be born with the sanskar of robbing in this lifetime, stealing. However, my soul has the awareness not to choose that, and I could choose a better path. Like if you look at the life of Valmiki, how he transitioned in one lifetime. So only 5% is where we are carrying our blueprint of our karma. But because we are not told about this, every suffering where we don't have a grip over, we try to put it in the karmic box because we choose to be victims of our reality.
So 92% is free will, basically.
92% is free will. However, even that free will is clouded with memories from early childhood or fetal trauma. So, in a way, I would say it's not really our fault that we are not aware. But then self-awareness is the best gift you can give yourself, to recognize that it's only 5% that I came here to suffer. 92% I came here to create a better reality for myself.
Okay. So if I look at it, basically 3% is my genes, 5% is my karma. Then I have some part of my womb trauma as well. Then the kind of family I'm born in, I don't know what kind of parents I have. So accordingly, my conditioning would differ. That would also leave an imprint in me. And I think typically, we get this kind of awareness maybe by the time we turn 21, like in our 20s, right? That's the time then we realize that, okay, it's in my hands to choose, I feel, right? So do you think it's too late by then? Because we have already, it's like, there's a cycle and then there's overlapping of cycles of karma and genes and conditioning and womb trauma. it's too much.
It's
to
too
cater
much.
to.
And you're saying at 21 we become aware, we don't become aware. Self-awareness is a journey that you choose.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Automatically awareness doesn't just come to you. Right? And the game of this entire life, or the rule of this thing is, you only find awareness through the darkness. So every time life is pushing you down, giving you a breakdown, giving you like a problem, your job is to look for the light in the darkness. And that's when you find the awareness. So the idea that there's so much overlapping is a very complicated idea, but that's the reality, because we are wrapped up. And this journey is like peeling off the layers of all the wrappings that we've done. And deep down underneath those layers is your beautiful soul that is indestructible, undestroyable, untouchable, and it's so pure with white light. So it's a very funny game. I feel you come here as white light, and life and your environment wraps you up with all the darkness, and your job is now to peel the darkness to go back to that light.
Yeah, that's right.
And somewhere in between comes karma as a layer.
Yeah. Tell me, since you are a quantum physics, you hold PhD in that. Tell me from quantum physics perspective, what is past life regression?
So the first thumb rule of thermodynamics that states energy cannot be created nor destroyed, right? And our soul is pure conscious energy. So there's no destruction of this energy. There's no creation. It always was. It always will be. So when you understand it from this perspective, we don't die. We are not born. So we're just transitioning through timelines, through time, space, and dimension, through a matrix, right? Now, it's my responsibility to take care of certain amount of energy that I will keep it into motion, right? So our emotions are energy in motion.
Right.
And when I don't give space to myself in a lifetime to process these energies, and I trap them and stagnate them, then it becomes my responsibility to come back and rebirth in another time, another space, another dimension, to put the trapped energy back into motion.
Okay.
Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, let's say I was born in this lifetime, and in my name, I was given about 10 kgs of energy, and my job in this lifetime is I'm going to keep this 10 kg energy constantly in motion. I'm not going to stagnate it. How do we stagnate emotions? With unforgiveness, with carrying anger, with not letting go of things that happened in the past. We hold on to stuff. That means we are holding on to energy. Okay. Now, when this held energy is stored in our cellular memories, it goes back as an imprint in my soul as stagnated energy. So now, my job was to keep it in motion, because energy is meant to be in motion. But now I've trapped so much energy of the universe, and my soul has come through. So now it's my prerogative to go back and put that energy back into motion by living the same story again.
So where exactly is our memory stored? Because, some people say that all your lifetimes are stored in your subconscious. Then we also say that it's in our cellular memory, in our microbiome. Where exactly do we access
So it's really interesting. There is one of the principles of hermetics that governs the principles of the universe, which is called the law of correspondence, which states as above, so below, as within, so without, which also states that everything in the universe is self-similar by nature. So that means the memories that I'm storing in my cellular memories or in my unconscious and subconscious are also stored in the Akashic records in the universe somewhere out there. It's self-similar, it's reflecting. Everything in the universe is reflecting.
Okay.
So because it's there in the Akashic library, it's also reflecting upon my DNA in the now moment, right? And that shows up in my DNA, and the same memory then shows up in my cellular memory, and the same memory then shows up in my unconscious, my subconscious, and becomes my behavior patterns. So it's so many layers.
It's like a light bulb and sitting,
it's exactly like, have you seen this mirror where there are many mirrors, and when I see my reflection, I'm seeing so many parts of me, but they're all similar. So our memories are exactly like that. They're repeating patterns. So it's kind of spooky and crazy to even understand it from a quantum physics perspective, because then it's an ongoing journey and so many layers to peel off.
So, okay. So does quantum physics believe that there is no concept of time and space?
So there is this latest theory called the block universe theory that states that the universe is only a entire block. There's no time, and it's made up of space. Time is only a matrix that cuts out space. And it's more of a man-made construct. It's more in the mind, right? So out there in the universe, it's all empty space.
So if there's no time, why I ask this is then there is no past life that I'm accessing. So does that mean that I'm just accessing my own version in a different universe?
In the now.
In the now.
Yes. So for my mind, it might be a past life. But for the universe, it's already there. It's in the now.
There. It's right now happening.
It's happening in the now. And our job is to go back and pick up all those unprocessed versions of us that are lying wounded there, to integrate it into my soul if I want to reach moksha. Karma healing and past life healing primarily is for us to attain moksha. Like, can I give an example? Let's say your soul is very malleable and it's a bunch of energy. Now, as I'm transitioning through this tunnel of life, I leave a little bit of my soul somewhere unprocessed. It's made up of energy. It's meant to be in motion. But one block of my soul as matter got trapped, let's say, in one timeline. And I've moved forward. Then I leave another piece there. In another timeline, I move forward and I leave another piece. So by the time I've reached my current lifetime, in the current now moment, I'm only, let's say, about 40% of me because 60% is left behind. So if I want to be whole and complete, I have to go back and pick up all those fragmented pieces of my soul that I left behind due to unprocessed, I was just trapped as unprocessed energy. And I have to bring back all those versions of me, integrate them into my soul if I want to be whole, complete and reach moksha.
That's what becoming whole actually means.
Yes. Right? So it's like, you know what, leaving one limb behind and then leaving another limb behind. And by the time you're living life, you're totally like paralyzed. So you got to go back and bring back all those pieces of you that you left behind as disintegrated versions of you and reintegrate them back into your soul. And that's what moksha is all about.
It's also said that past life regression also helps you in unlocking your gifts, right? Because you access maybe some better versions of also what you are, right? But isn't that also quantum jumping? Is there any intersection of quantum jumping?
So quantum jumping is a very good concept to move forward to a future version of yourself, to create something for the now, like manifest. However, if I have not healed my past life and I've quantum jumped, then the unprocessed matter will pull me back.
Okay.
So I might not sustain the new version of me. So the safest way of quantum jumping, the first step is first I heal all my past versions and then I quantum jump into a new version of me or a parallel timeline or a parallel universe. Please understand, the past versions of you are very dense because they're unprocessed energy, they are dark matter, okay? So, and they're carrying your vibration on it. So if I quantum jump into another timeline, but something unprocessed remains behind, I will be pulled back with more density. And that's the reason why people move up and they fall down real badly. So the first step is heal those versions and then quantum jump into a new reality, a new parallel timeline.
See, no one talks about it. Like I've seen so many these reels come up and so many experts talking about quantum jumping. No one talks about it. So important to heal all those different versions of you that you were in your past life or maybe, different in your different universes that you are. I think that's a good point for everyone who's watching this, that heal those versions first. Interesting. So, how do you differentiate between a karmic cycle, that this has happened because of my past life karma, or and the subconscious subconscious programming, which ultimately becomes a belief in our foundation also? How do we differentiate? Because most of the times we're like, this is because of my karma.
It's very difficult to differentiate for an unaware person. Like today at this level of my consciousness, if you ask me, I just know I can differentiate. However, when the memory shows up, right, you have this innate knowingness that this happened to me when I was in my mother's womb, or this happened to me when I was a child, or memory is not from this lifetime, it's from another lifetime. Okay. So, and your soul knows it. Your soul is all-knowing and all-pervasive. It just has innate intelligence. However, for another person to identify my memories, it's really difficult. Nobody can do it for you. Even the role of a past life therapist is just to take you through the process. It is your soul and your consciousness that identifies what trauma is ready to be healed. And another thing, we cannot force open a past life memory. It's like a wound.
Yeah.
You know, you can't force open the pus to come out. It has to be right from within. Right? And one of the ways you recognize it, that some memory is ready to pop out and the pus is ready to ooze out, is when there is a certain activated emotion in you. So that's the time you need to go to a therapist or a healer and say, okay, something is getting activated. I'm feeling very irritated, very angry, very anxious. So, and that is the right time, right, for some memory to show up.
Okay. Because, when I came across past life regression for the first time, and I think for most of the Indian audience, we watched it in a television show, right? My fear was that if I go through it, and what if, I did something so horrible, and I happened to see that I inflicted suffering in someone, that I would feel guilty. So I might know the cause, that why is it happening, but I might come back very wounded. So how do you take care of that?
No, so once we open up a memory, we make sure we integrate it back with processes so that you don't walk out with open wounds and feeling more guilty or more re-traumatized.
Exactly.
Because that's even more dangerous for my nervous system. Because something that I was not aware that happened in some lifetime, now the box is open and now I'm feeling every emotion of it to every cell of my body. So then we have processes like EFT and Ho'oponopono to help you heal the karmic wounds. And or even through breathwork, we reintegrate you back and we leave you whole and complete in the now moment.
Yeah, else, people would be literally coming back traumatized.
Yeah, and one of the most powerful statements in EFT that our subconscious mind and our conscious mind registers is we make a declaration and a command, that was then and this is now. So suddenly your brain gets this distinction that, okay, that happened then. And now I have a choice to make another choice. So that really helps you separate it.
Interesting. Okay. So typically, how we guys look at karma. It's a very tit-for-tat approach, I feel. For example, I think this would be a dialogue we all would have heard while growing up, that if we do not have money or, we are constantly in debt, then we might have heard it from our elders that, I might have stolen money from someone in my past life, or, I would have kind of taken someone's share. It's always like this happened to me because I might have done this to someone in my past life. Is it actually true, or there can be a karma which is totally unrelated but can still manifest and affect an angle of your life which you're not able to connect? For example, that people who have breathing problem, they actually encounter it because they might have in their past life caged maybe a pet, right? Or maybe kind of in this birth, they have a breathing problem. So karma, which is totally unrelated but still affect an area of my life, which I'm not able to connect with.
Yeah, so rather than using the word tit for tat, I'd rather use the concept of cause and effect.
Cause and effect, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So to every cause, there's a effect that comes in.
Right.
However, if you understand the law, there is this law that says to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
True that.
So, if on one side I have a choice, if I give you negative and I have a choice to suffer negative, there's an opposite reaction also. At the same time, there is a possibility of looking at the positive and choosing a positive. So there's nothing like a tit for tat. It's about awareness and the conscious choice of my presence in the moment, right? Like your example, let's say, if I suffocated someone, so in this lifetime I have a breathing problem, right? Now, if I become self-aware, I don't have to suffer through it. But there's also something you must understand. Let me give you an analogy. Let's take a glass of water. Now, in the glass of water, I first pour mud, right? It settles in. Then I pour little grease, right? And then I pour little paint. Now, by the end of it, it all gets mixed up and I can't tell the mud from the grease and the paint. It's all mixed up. It's in the same glass. Right. So, our memories are exactly like that. So our karmic memory could be the grease, or our childhood womb trauma could be the mud I'm talking about. So it's very difficult to say which memory is coming from where, because it's all in one container, in my unconscious or subconscious memory, and it's mine. So today I just like to take them back into timelines to process anything that's unprocessed. It doesn't matter it's coming from karma or it's coming from your childhood, but you got to process it. It's kachada. Either which ways. Right? So today, because I'm more evolved and there's more understanding, I realize it makes more sense to just go through the healing process.
Interesting. But in your experience, I'm sure you have taken so many people through past life regression, right? I would just give you certain effects, right? And you can tell me what could be in your experience, whatever therapies you have done so far, what would be the cause in their past life, right? So for example, there are a lot of people who feel that they work hard a lot, right? They are literally at it, but they don't get that kind of success. They don't attract that kind of abundance, right? And like I said, we typically blame it on our karma that, this might be from my past life. Has it happened in one of your sessions where people have said that, this, or maybe you have experienced that this is the pattern, this is the kind of karma they do, and this is what they experience?
So if I look at it from a karmic standpoint, could be that in some lifetime they died of poverty and now they're suffering and struggling through it. And it could also be that, they could have been very rich and they were miser and stingy and did not really use their money. So this lifetime they have to really struggle through to get that abundance. It could be various pros and combinations. I'm just guessing.
Sure.
But it could be any of these things.
Sure.
However, again, I'm saying we are not here to be victims of our karma. We are here to be the creators of our reality.
Right.
And like I said, our karmic imprints are only 5% in our DNA. So at every moment we have a choice to outcreate the matrix and write a bigger story and to rewrite our genetic and our karmic destiny. True. At every given moment.
And people who always found themselves getting stuck with toxic partners, abusive partners, or maybe partners who cheat on them. Did they also do the same in their past life? Yeah,
it could be. It's not like if they did it or not. It is in somewhere in their, like I told you, all the memories are muddled up. Okay, so somebody attracting a infidelity or toxic partner could mean that in their childhood they saw one of their parents, doing it. So they carried that imprint from there. Or it could be when they were in their mother's womb, something like that happened. Or it could be in some lifetime also they were suffering. So the person unfolding the memory can tell us, was this karmic or was this in my mother's womb, or is it my childhood memory?
And what about people who go through, who have addiction problems, or they have self-worth, suicidal tendencies, or self-sabotage basically? Is there any connection to past life trauma also?
No. Suicidality, so I did this course on suicidality, and it was from a very renowned institute where they established with the research that every suicidal tendency that is initiated, not having a feeling but initiated, is coming from the mother, where the mother definitely had those suicidal tendencies and she was carrying. It's 100% proven. Right?
So it's not even them, it's actually coming from the womb?
Yes. It's coming from the mother, and the mother must have at some given point, attempted it. So the child definitely will attempt it then. At least in all the cases that I deal with, when I have a case of suicidality who've come to me, my first question to the mother of the child is, or to the person is, did you ever attempt it at some given point in your life? And the answer is yes.
Is self-worth also come from the womb?
Self-worth?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely yes. Early childhood and womb. Please understand, when the soul chooses to rebirth, right, there's only 5% of the incomplete karma that we are talking about. The worthiness, the compassion, the leadership qualities of the soul are still there in the soul. So no matter what karma you're carrying, have you seen a newborn baby or have you seen a small child? They're so full of life and so full of belief in themselves. But somewhere that gets tarnished as they're growing up. So that definitely is not karmic.
And what about depression or anxiety?
All these also are very environmental.
Very
The
environmental.
new study of epigenetics
Yeah.
states that it is not your genetics that shapes up your genetic destiny or your emotional destiny. It is your environment. So environmental conditioning is right from the time of conception. The 9 months in your mother's womb, you were in an environment, emotional environment. Then you come out and you're in that 21 years of your life, you're in an emotional environment in your house. So it is the epigenetics, the study states that it is your environment that shapes up your behavior, your thought process, and your ways of being and believing. वो बेचारा कर्मा बहुत बदनाम है. Everything karma, because easy way out.
Yeah. So, when something very horrible happens in society, maybe something like a rape case, right? Does it happen that not every time, in which you also have pointed out that it's not a past life karma, sometimes it can be a soul contract and the soul deliberately chose it to maybe establish a lesson for the whole society? Does that also happen?
Absolutely, yes.
I'd also like you to explain to people what exactly soul contract or life planning is.
So when you understand at the soul level, there's no pain, there's no emotions. It's just a journey. And we, all of us, the theory of entanglement says that we're all entangled in this soup of consciousness. We're all connected, right? So your victory is my victory. Your loss is my loss. When I hurt you, the entire universe gets back to hurt me. That's how entangled we are. So certain souls choose to awaken the society through their suffering. Right? And maybe in the contract, they might just choose that, okay, I'll go through this. And through this pain, the entire society will wake up to
and that's the reason
and
pain is so
awaken.
intense and the crime is so intense.
Absolutely. So, and the entire cycle of life is like an end and beginning, an end and a beginning. So, when certain big calamities happen, there is a cycle ending and a new cycle beginning, right? And life is going on. But when I look at it individually as souls, when something universally happens to someone, then that's a universal awakening.
In fact, I was about to come to that point where you said calamity, that a lot of people, people die in natural calamities. Such huge number of people died together. Is it also like they had like a collective karma that they did which led to this?
So when you understand the cycle of evolution in life, we all come from the zero density or the zero dimension, and we transition upward. Consciousness is always moving upward. And for us to embody a human life, we've already lived through 84 lakh evolutionary lifetimes. Okay. So, when one evolution ends through a natural calamity or something, then we have this chance to come to another lifetime. And that is the cycle of life. So it's not good, bad, right, wrong. It is the process. So like, for example, for people like you and me who are living in a society like Delhi now, just an example, there are many lifetimes where we would have died with war, we would have died with natural calamities, and now we are here embodied in a great lifetime. So we have to go through all of that darkness to be in an embodied quotient of light.
So it's actually the body which experiences the suffering, and that's the reason it's so traumatic for the body. Right.
Like, for example, if something happens out there, and if I am getting triggered, right? Let's say a universal happening happens and it's really triggering me. That simply means that in some lifetime, right, the same thing must have happened to me, and that is unhealed in my energy field. And so that's a sign for me to heal it, right? So our triggers are our treasures that actually guide us to something unhealed within us.
Which can be, which can be a mix of, like you said,
karmic or anything.
Got it. Okay. Do our shadow emotions, like greed, jealousy, anger, do they also come with us through past life, or like you said that it's again very environmental and very conditioning based?
No. So the soul is dual in nature, right? It's both light
I
and dark.
thought soul is singular in nature. That's what I thought.
No. So when you understand, the soul is singular in nature, but for it to live in the material world,
then it's
it has to embody duality.
Right.
Right? So the soul is multidimensional. It has a state of singularity and it has a state of duality. The game is I come from the singularity of darkness into the duality of light and dark to move to the singularity of light. So the journey is from darkness to light, right? So when we come into life, we are carrying a state of duality. That means there are certain dark emotions that I carry. However, these are not good, bad, right, wrong emotions. They are not karmic. They are meant to be a part of the framework. But these emotions then get wounded due to a lot of our childhood or karmic memories. And now these wounded emotions then end up as the wounded dark side of us. So what I'm trying to establish is having a shadow side of us is not a wrongness. We all have a dark side. But having a wounded dark side is dangerous. Now the goal is first to heal my wounded dark side and then merge my light and dark to become the light.
Yeah, and I was about to ask this, is the goal that I embrace myself in totality and celebrate it, whether it's good or bad, or whether the goal is that, I should only become the good?
No, there is no good or bad. It is light or dark.
Yeah.
And when I look at it from quantum physics, right, there is non-material energy.
Right.
That's called the wave. And then there is matter called particle. So there is energy that manifests as wave or as particle.
Right.
Now particle is matter. It's made up of atoms. When you look at an atom, there's a negatively charged particle, the electron. There is a positively charged particle, the proton, and then the neutron. Right? So an atom is made up of the positive charge and the negative charge. And our soul is also an atom. So it has to have a negative and a positive. So there's no good, bad, right, wrong. It's just negative and positive. It's light and it's dark. And both these energies are having their interplay, right, of electromagnetism to manifest the material world. So if I want to live in the material world, I have to have the negative charge and the positive charge.
Got it. Okay. So when anyone who goes through past life regression, right? For example, I might have hurt someone in my past life and that's the reason this person is hurting me and I'm suffering because of this person. Now, when I go through it, in this birth, I might be like, I hate this guy and because this is really causing me a lot of trauma. But when I go through this therapy and I realize that, it was me who did the wrong first. And I come to that level where I'm like, okay, no, I want to forgive and I want to cut cords with it. So does that mean that once I forgive, I have now successfully ended my karmic cycle? And do people after PLR have actually reported that, once the session is done and that they have got the closure, they've accepted, they've healed, that they've also come out of that karmic cycle and they're not stuck in that pattern anymore?
So it's very funny when something shows up and I realize that this was my doing and I make peace there, then in the next moment, life tests you again.
Throws at you something.
Okay.
Similar.
And there you have to choose a new pattern. And that's when you freed yourself. Right? So like, for example, let's say you're constantly nagging me. So I realize, in some lifetime, I must have nagged her.
Yeah.
But so I take responsibility and I make peace between us. And I say, okay, we are quits now. Right? And it's okay for me. Now, in the next moment, the moment I make this choice and I make it a declaration, I've learned my lesson. Now, in the next moment, you will come back with the criticism for me again. So the universe wants to test me, have I changed my patterns? Because karma is also learning your lessons more than healing. Now, in the next moment when you criticize me, if I choose appreciation, then I've outcreated the karmic matrix.
And that's where you're like,
I'm free from my, So I have to learn a new lesson. Karma is about learning our lessons more than healing.
Yeah. Even I believe that I think if you're stuck in a cycle,
the lessons will keep repeating.
You
so
have
got
to
change the patterns.
Yes. Even I believe in that. Yeah. Okay. I want some funny questions that I'd like to ask. Okay. First of all, I would love to know if there's been any fascinating or interesting, story that you have from past life regression therapy, like someone that you did it for someone and maybe that person turns out to be like a historical figure or maybe like a famous personality, something memorable that you can recall.
So there's so many stories, but one thing I remember, I always would have a trigger with my staff and my servants and my drivers especially. Always. This was a set thing for me that they would trigger me to some degree. And once when I was healing this lady with her past life memory, and in this lifetime she was really suffering from, like, she got married, and the moment she got married, after 3 months of her marriage, her husband went through an accident and he went into paraplegia. Paraplegia is a condition where one of your nerves get damaged and you go like a vegetable down.
Oh, okay.
So she came to me when she was almost like 20 years into the marriage, and her misery was like, 20 years I've been married to this guy and I've only been serving him. Right? And I don't know why, but it's definitely karmic, because it's not a coincidence. I marry him and he goes through this accident in 2 months. And after that, he's become a vegetable, and I've just been literally, wiping his shit and feeding him, and I'm done with this. So I said, okay, let's regress you. And we went back to a past life memory of hers, where she very, very clearly saw that in some lifetime, she was this very egoistic sarpanch. She saw herself as this very superior person, and her current husband was working under her.
Okay.
And in arrogance and with some mistake that he had made, she kicked him.
Okay.
Right? And he went and hit his head against a stone there. And she could see his nerve cut here and bleeding. And his last words before dying, she heard them, was, "Iska ghamand todunga, isse seva karvaunga." And he died.
Oh.
And the moment, she could feel it in every bone of hers. And the moment she opened her eyes, she was howling and crying. And the funny thing was, after she went back, her whole way of dealing with him had become more compassionate. And in 21 days, he freed her from this karmic cycle and he passed away. Because she had realized her lesson.
So the soul knew. The soul of the husband also knew.
Yeah. It's a contract. And that made me more compassionate. I no, nothing to the drivers and nothing, because you know what? In this lifetime, they're not entangled with me in my immediate karmic cycle or karmic family. They're an outside circle. But let's say if I'm abusing you, now we are all souls at one level, we are entangled. And in God's eyes or in the universe eyes, we are all one. I have no right to insult or abuse anybody, right? So I make you feel small, and you are not in a position to give it back to me, because obviously you're working for me. Now, if you die of that hurt and pain, I have entangled myself for the next lifetime with you. And in the next lifetime now, I have to come back.
And that's the reason emotion plays such a big part.
Of course, yes. So that's why they say we're all one, and treat everybody with kindness, right? And if you can't be kind, just keep quiet.
How many sessions does one typically take to kind of go back and access their past life?
Like I told you, it depends on the intensity of the receiver.
Okay.
Like if I'm talking about this case, like she was so bottled up with her suffering, she was ready to crack. So it doesn't depend on the therapist. It's like an egg. Okay, let's understand.
Sure.
When an egg is ready to crack from the inside, you get new life, you get a chicken. But when somebody cracks it forcefully from the outside, you only get an omelette. So therapist cannot crack you open.
It totally
when you are ready to crack, a therapist provides an environment and a process inside of which you could unfold your memory. And that's why so many people come to me, I want to do past life, and I just smile at them. I said, would you ever go to a surgeon and tell them, listen, please do a surgery on me? You won't do that, right? So this is where the misunderstanding is. And so many people also come to me and said, I went to this past life therapist, but nothing showed up. I said, maybe because you were not ready to crack.
It's also calling, right? Like the timing will
The memory has to be activated, and then automatically at that moment you will reach to the right person. They say, when the student is ready, the master appears. Right? Yeah. So don't force open these memories. Your soul will help you navigate the right place. You know, because this is not like some fun process. I just want to go and explore. Oh, show me a past life memory and I want to see. Because where will I take you? There's so many lifetimes you've lived. I don't have a point of reference. Like, for example, this woman specifically came to me that I'm suffering from 20 years. I want to know what is happening. So immediately her soul took her to that memory.
Because it was so strong from
Yeah.
inside. Okay. Yeah. Have you ever experienced that the person who came for past life regression, in their past life, they were a non-human entity? As in, other than human, they could have been in any other category of creatures. Can be an
Not
elemental
really,
being.
actually, because it's also how it's your observation. I just choose to look at them as humans, and they show up as humans. So, although I've met a lot of starseeds and different categories of people, however, I choose to relate to them as humans and not humanoids, or the other categories you call them. Yeah.
But in through past life, have people had these experiences? Because I came across this really crazy documentary, wherein on literally the Netflix of spirituality, wherein this Spanish guy recalls that he was born, I don't know how many millions of years ago, in a different galaxy, in a planet, and he was, I think, in a proton or a neutron form. That's what he said. Have you experienced in your personal therapies that someone said that they were able to access a different, like they had life on a different planet or galaxy? Yeah.
Different planet or galaxy, no. But I do remember there was this one retreat where we were exploring the entire different dimensions from 0 density to the 12 density. So we took them back into a timeline, and few people could go back to the time when they were like a rock or snakes.
Okay.
Right, and they could relate to the incompletion that they left behind in those lifetimes. Not in the human body, but in other... you must understand that we've been all of it. We've been the minerals, we've been the water, we've been the oceans, we've been all the plants and trees and all. So yes, this experience we've had where we took back when we are exploring the dimensions.
Yeah, but this is also so humbling, right? Like when you go through something like that and then you realize that I have been all of this. Right?
And that's where your connection is with oneness, and all is, and we're also connected. And after being all of that, we come as the most superior species, and we are carrying all of it within us. Yeah. And we are the only species, or the most sampurna species. Do you know we carry the 5 elements within us? We carry the 9 planets on our fingertips.
I've heard that's the reason we eat, like it's
eat
preferable to eat with our hands.
So the entire universe is within us, and that's why we have this mantra, Aham Brahmasmi.
Yeah.
I am the universe.
Creator,
I am the creator.
Yeah.
But you know what? We discount ourselves so much in life.
So true.
Like when you look at our chakras, all the 5 elements, like water is only water, but I have water, I have air, I have earth, fire, space.
Yeah.
There could be no other whole, incomplete, or sampurna species besides us. But still we always feel we are not good enough. We always play it small.
So our only job in every birth that we have is that just learn the lessons and
keep on
becoming the full and wholesome being that you were.
Yes, your lessons will keep repeating.
Until you learn them.
And to simplify karma, I feel just understand the law of cause and effect. Without a cause into motion, there will be no effect. Right? So everything that's coming back to me in my life is an effect of the cause my soul has put into motion in any other lifetime. So to simplify karma, I don't have to go back to what I gave out. Because what I gave out is coming back to me right now. I just need to learn my lesson and correct it in the now. So if anger is coming back to me, I've given it out. So rather than going back and exploring, if I'm very self-aware, I will not waste time in going back. I'll say, okay, I have given this somewhere. So now I'm going to correct, and from today, I'm not going to give out anger. And that becomes very easy for me to overcome and learn my lessons and overcome my karmic cycles.
Have people also reported that they experience interaction maybe with like an interdimensional being or maybe like an extraterrestrial?
A lot, absolutely. And in the current dimension of the 5D density, the 5th dimension, there's the veil between the physical and the non-physical is very thin, and even in the interdimensions. So there's going to be a lot of invasion of aliens and into our planet. And a lot of that is going on the planet currently. And I'm sure you've heard of it also, yeah, right? Yeah, so a lot of this, we have these experiences. But they're too unreal to even understand for a normal person who doesn't understand the entire universe, how this works. So
maybe that's the reason so many UFO sightings.
yes, and this is going to increase more as time moves on.
The only thing that's disappointing for me is it only happens in America. I was like, why doesn't it happen in any other part of the world? Right. Yeah. Does PLR also talk about or reveal evidence of being born in the same family lineage or being part of the same family? Like even in the past life, they would have been part of the same family, and even in this life.
Yes, you could repeat the same family if it's undone karma. Yes, you'll come back in the same family. Although the entire lineage may not be the same.
Okay.
Right? But then the families, yeah, you could repeat your patterns. Okay. Surely.
So when we are able to spot a pattern in someone, is it, a trait that I already have, or is it actually an unhealed karma?
So when you understand the whole science of projection is something that I see in others. So the thumb rule is, if you spot it, you got it. Right? So we have a conscious and unconscious memory. So whatever I'm seeing in others is an unhealed, unconscious, unaccepted part of me. And that is the reason I'm judging it in them and projecting it on them. Right? Okay. And when we are born with no good parts and bad parts. Right. We are just dual in nature. So we have dark parts and light parts. And our role is to add light to the dark parts and heal them and integrate them. However, because, like, I'll give you an example. A small child is lying. Now, lying is an energy we're all born with. Okay, and white lies is a part of our framework. And then if the child is beaten up for telling lies, so the child picks up a message that this energy I'm never ever going to show it to other people because people will judge me. So we end up hiding this energy in our unconscious. And then I wear a mask of being a super honest person. The contrast. Yeah. And now everywhere I go, I look at liars and I get triggered. But then that liar that I'm judging is already an unhealed version of me that I've trapped somewhere in the basement in my unconscious. And the thumb rule of this unhealed shadow is, if you don't use it consciously, it keeps using you in a programmed way. So you are a compulsive liar, but you can't see it.
You can't see it.
Because it's using you in every aspect of your life. So
if someone is able to look through people and they can spot if the other person is bluffing or manipulating them, that means that somewhere even they can bluff people and can manipulate people.
200%.
They might not be aware.
Like I told you, if you spot it, you got it. And when these shadows are not healed, they end up as our next life karma. Now, again, like I said, there are no good parts and bad parts. When I become self-aware, then I bring all of these energies into my consciousness and use them with a choice where it's needed. Like, I might need a place where I need to consciously manipulate or consciously bluff, but I'm aware I'm doing it. So the idea is, I have to be very self-aware of what am I doing.
So if I'm aware and I'm doing a karma, then it's fine. Is that the bottom line?
No, it also depends on how much I'm hurting the other person. Then it's not fine.
Right.
See, because if I am fine with it, but if I hurt you and you set out an energy into motion towards my direction, it has to come and hit me.
Right. Tell me one thing. For example, nothing such drastically bad has happened in my life so far, right? But I still opt to go for a past life regression therapy session, and in there I saw something traumatic. Does that also hint that something can happen in my future too? I still have not seen the consequence of it. I've seen the cause, but I've not seen the effect of it in my life so far. So does that mean that something will definitely happen in future? Because I've already triggered the cause, but the effect has not happened yet.
So there are two parts to this. Number one is, please understand, a karmic memory that's trapped in the unconscious is in a deactivated state.
Okay.
It's lying there, unprocessed, deactivated.
Dormant, right?
Dormant.
Yeah.
Now, suddenly when we go and touch it, we activate it in our current energy field.
Okay.
Now, in the universe, there's no past, present, future.
Right.
Right? So, let's say if I saw something like abuse. Now, currently, in my current now moment, I've activated the abuse energy. So, if I've not healed the entire memory of abuse and that vibration of abuse, I will end up starting attracting abuse in the now moment. And it could be karmic or it could be because of my activated memory. And if it's not showed up, the consequences have not showed up, and if I'm self-aware, I can actually change the future in the now moment
By being aware now.
being aware, learning my lesson. And there's this one beautiful tool called Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaiian prayer,
Right.
which I swear by, right? And I feel it helps you not show up the event in the future by learning your lesson and by neutralizing the energy in the now.
Interesting.
So this is where tools come into place.
Right.
And I think Ho'oponopono is a blessing that we've been given to humanity, because if you're using that tool, it deactivates every karmic charge that shows up. Because you're also willing to learn your lesson in that.
Right. So if I'm actually using Ho'oponopono prayer and I'm asking for forgiveness even when I don't know what I have done in the past, right? But I'm still healing it despite not knowing what I have done in the past.
So I'll give you an example, okay? And I share this very often when I'm teaching Ho'oponopono. There was this one time in my life where it was one of those days where I really needed some funds. And I was expecting some money to come through that day. And suddenly this person calls up and says, like, aapka payment abhi 4-5 din delay ho gaya. But I was sitting in a very critical situation where I needed that money. And the amount also was precisely 2.5 lakh rupees, right? So, I went through a little bit of an emotional breakdown because I had committed to someone and I wanted to honor my commitment. And I suddenly said, okay, I don't know what is my karma. And suddenly, the first thing goes is, koi karma hoga, mera paisa ruk gaya. I said, let's use Ho'oponopono. Right? So Ho'oponopono is a very simple statement. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you and I thank you. So my money is stuck right now. So I'm saying sorry to the stuck money.
Okay.
Now, why is my money stuck? Because somewhere I have kept someone's money. Right? That's why my money got stuck.
Right.
So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. In 10 minutes of doing Ho'oponopono with pure self-awareness, out of nowhere, I receive a call from one of my very old karigars. I was into clothes at one time. And for the last 7 years, I was not in touch with him. Suddenly he calls me up and says, Bhabhi ji, aapne na mera 25,000 dena tha, aapne rakh liya tha mera.
Oh.
Now, in another moment, I would have become defensive and maybe shoot him off. But suddenly the light went on and I started joining the dots. 2.5 lakhs, 25,000.
Yeah.
And could there be a connection? And I suddenly told him, come and take your money. Here he comes and takes his money. And by the evening, that money didn't show up, but some other money showed up and I was free from my trap. And this is only one of those incidents I'm relating. I have million episodes to tell you how Ho'oponopono works.
Wow.
If you're really doing it, the evidence will show up in the now.
You just need to have faith.
The block gets cleared. It works.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it's one of the best karma healing tools.
So, once you understand past life regression, right? Once you understand this interconnectedness, what do you think? How much is free will and how much is destiny?
I think free will shapes up our destiny.
Okay.
Right? And that's where the power to create is.
Okay.
We have the power to write our destiny with our free will. But the first thumb rule is we got to learn our unlearned lessons. Yeah. Number one, we have to live with the laws of the universe. And the universe does live with certain laws. And we cannot really violate them at a certain level of our consciousness. So, we are destiny creators. We create our karmic destiny. We create our genetic destiny. We create our financial destiny. And we have the power to create everything. So, and what gives us the power to create this is our free will.
Beautiful.
So, I think it's very interconnected.
Yes. So, is our life purpose also connected? Like my life purpose in this present birth is also connected to my past life, that any unresolved journey that I had in my past, which I have not completed, like you say, that, unlearned lessons, and does that learning that lesson become the purpose of this life?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that with my own life's example. So, in this lifetime, if you look at my entire spectrum of my life, 30 years of my life I've invested in certifying myself with the right degrees to become a healer. And sometimes I would wonder, why am I so stuck on certifications and why do I want to do it the right way? And in one of my past life memories, I went through a lifetime where I was a healer, but I was a quack. Just like when you look at the current scenario, there are many homegrown life coaches. They just claim themselves without the right degree, right qualification, right? So, and I had to suffer the consequences of that because it was very inauthentic. I was playing with people's life, sometimes with little knowledge, right? You can't just go and become a healer. Like, for example, if I have the knowledge of all the medicines, I can't go and become a general physician. I need to get trained. It's a proper training. So I realized this lifetime's dharma or purpose was I'm going to be authentic. So for me, I'm very, very particular in this lifetime that without a certification, I'm not going to teach anything. And even for people who come to learn with me, I first certify them and I tell them, do it the right way, because I have suffered in many lifetimes. And in this lifetime, I've come back as a healer to be authentic. So I feel, yes, if you've left something incomplete, then you have to come back to complete it the right way, do it the right way. So the game of life is not about winning or losing. The game is play the game right.
Interesting. If you have to give some takeaways to our audience regarding past life regressions, right? Just 3 things that I'd like to know from you. 1, what kind of practice they can inculcate into their daily life to even recognize that this is a karmic cycle, that's why I'm trapped in. Like, one thing that you'd like to suggest they can do to kind of bring awareness that this might be because of my karmic cycle.
So see, the current time that we are in, the 5th dimension frequencies, time has become a very fluid construct. So the past, present, future are showing up. The veil between the past, present, future has really thinned. So in the current paradigm, it's very easy for us to unlock our past life memories. The practice that one must do could be just sitting with your breath and mantra chanting, meditation. But I feel everybody needs a guru or a coach to help them navigate. Don't try to navigate this on your own. Don't try to be very independent. We are all an interdependent species, so holding someone's hand might make it more easier for you.
Okay.
But you could do your meditation practice, you could do your kriyas, your breath work, your just inner inquiry. As simple as even questioning everything that's coming back to you, because what's coming back to you is the effect. So you have put that cause into motion somewhere. So self-awareness is the key.
Introspection, basically.
Introspection. Breathing creates a lot of awareness, being connected to your breath, right? So create actions of self-awareness so that you could introspect more clearly.
Okay. So, does it happen that, for example, when preparation of certain medicines, right, certain kind of animals, insects are used, right? And of course, when they're killed, I'm sure there must be the emotion of grief or pain. And when you are intaking that medicine, are we also intaking that emotion and energy? And though that medicine, we have the system of elimination also, it goes out from our body. But does that emotional energy cling on to our energy and also become a part of our energy? Or, we can be free from that?
Yeah, so the first thing we must understand is everything in the universe is energy.
Right.
And energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it only can be transmuted. Right? So when I'm consuming something like an imprint of an animal, when they were fearful, their fear now is in my body and is showing up as my fear.
Okay.
Because it's all energy, okay? Now, if I'm self-aware of that and I hold a higher frequency of love, compassion to what I've consumed, then I can transmute that fear to love and compassion.
Okay.
Right? again, like I said, it requires a level of self-awareness. But if I'm not aware, then that becomes my fear and it gets trapped as a stagnated energy to my imprint. And that could go back as my imprint or my karma. So it all is very relative. Everything in the universe is forever changing. There's no fixed truth, right? Everything is relative to which vibration I am in the current moment.
That's why we also say we all are one, because each one of us affect the other.
Yes. Like a very dense person in a low vibration, eating animal fat or animal protein, it would go well with his vibration. But if a person who's mastered higher level of consciousness, right, light vibrations, and they end up eating animal fat, it's not going to go with their body. Right? And that will show up as a very charged up emotion in their body. Right? So, now who can decide what is right, what is wrong? So, it's all relative to what frequency, subjective to what frequency we are at.
Okay, coming back to my question, is there any practice or technique that you can recommend there where people can access their past life memories? One is that to be aware that this can be a karmic cycle. One is about accessing those memories. If someone has not been through a past life regression therapy, is there anything that they can do to access those past life memories, maybe trapped in their subconscious?
On their own, I feel one of the best modalities is conscious connected breathing.
Okay.
You can self-regress yourself into any timeline. Okay. You have to just learn the art and the science of it. Like for me today, if I have to regress myself, I just go into my breath work and I reach a memory where I want to reach, either a future timeline or a past timeline. Because it takes you through time, space and dimension.
And how different is that breath work from other breath works? Like what exactly happens in that breath work?
So the conscious connected breathing is where, we are creating a space between our inhale and exhale. We are connecting this. And I personally believe there is a combination of certain the oxygen, the carbon dioxide and the nitric oxide that happens, that takes our brain to an altered state of consciousness. So I have an intention before I go into the breath work, right? Okay. That I need to go into, tap into the root cause of this memory. And the breath work then takes me there. Another very, very powerful modality that I have learned is Reiki healing that helps you go into past life. Really? Especially the Reiki symbols.
Really?
Yeah. Reiki symbols. And it's a very discounted kind of energy tool, I feel. But I swear by Reiki because it was one of the first healing modalities that I had learned. And the Reiki symbols, especially the connecting symbol that we have, instantly connects you to any lifetime you want to connect to, any timeline. Yes. So these are the two tools I would encourage people to use if they want to self-regress themselves.
Interesting. And what would you like to recommend if someone wants to use a practice to heal their karmas? Anything that they can do for emotional healing or healing their karmas?
Ho'oponopono. Yes. Ho'oponopono and self-awareness are two key tools. And sometimes, you don't have to go back to the story of what happened. The very fact that this is coming back to me, I have done it. Yeah. I've given it out. Let's establish that truth. And rather than going into the past and then sitting with the trauma of it, I'd rather heal the present effect that's coming. And then my next moment is I put a new cause into motion. So that's why Ho'oponopono is very sophisticated, very subtle and very clean. You don't have to go into the mess of it.
Yeah. Interesting. Can you take us through the 12 consciousness realms, if possible, in short? I was so curious and intrigued by the whole thing that you said, that what exactly happens and all. If it can be done.
Yeah, it's a whole subject.
Then maybe next podcast?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Okay.
It's like
okay.
In a very nutshell, we could say that we have 12 chakras, right? Sure. And our chakras are our doorway to dimensions. So 7 chakras are in our body.
Right.
So the first 7 chakras give us access to the material world, our body. And then the 8 chakra in our auric field. So they are the non-physical dimensions.
That is the reason once you reach the 7th chakra, you attain, that also
Nirvana, moksha.
But like you
said. Yeah. And then 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th chakra are the higher non-physical dimensions. So you can master the dimensions through your energy centers.
Wow.
Your chakras are the doorway to dimensions.
So anyone whose energy is stuck in root chakra only, that means that they're at the 0 dimension.
Yeah, they are totally in unawareness and in darkness, and they're just in the 0 density, like a stone. So they more live like a stone or a rock or a, like, totally.
Rather than being more fluid, they are like...
Yeah, fluid. The higher you go, the fluidity comes in. Like, so in the 5th dimension, embodiment is more of the heart center or the throat center, right? That's where compassion, love, kindness, more of human essence comes. The lower 3 chakras are the animal instinct, right? The 4th and the 5th chakra are more of the human instinct. And the 6th and the 7th chakra are the divine instinct. So we carry these 3 instincts in us.
So a lot of people might have like multiple chakras blocked, right? So how do we know? Does that mean that my road to those dimensions, all those dimensions are blocked?
So there's nothing like a blocked chakra. It's we like to rather use the word imbalance or polarized chakras. So they go into an extreme charge of extreme bipolarity, right? So to bring a chakra to balance, the first step is to depolarize them. And if the chakra is imbalanced, then you don't have access to that dimension. Or then all your energy is only stuck in that dimension.
Stuck in those dimensions. Does it have a number? Like, does every chakra have a number?
Yeah, so it's... So in the Hawkins scale, when you look at the Hawkins scale of consciousness, he's numbered it. It's not like literally there's a number. But just to give it a point of reference to the human linear mind, they've given it a scale of 0 to 700. So that's why 400 is the heart, the 4th chakra.
So anything which is less than 0 is that underactive, and anything that's more than 700 is that overactive?
No. So these are the level, these are the vibrational frequencies. However, underactive or overactive is the polarity scale. So, like, let's say it's the center point is my Sushumna Nadi, where my chakras are supposed to be balanced. Then on either side, I have the polarity, right? Which on my right side of my body, I have the positive polarity, which is connected to my left brain, the masculine side. And then on the left side, I have my feminine side, the negative polarity. Right? So, rather than being in a state of balance, the chakras either go into extreme right, overactive, or extreme negative, underactive. And they become bipolar, and we start pendulating between these 2 polarities. Then there's no stability in emotions. So either I'm too happy or I'm too sad. The pendulation of emotions.
That happens with me. Like
with everyone, actually.
Yeah, I mean, on days, there are days when I wake up and I'm literally ranting about each and everything, and I don't want to be forgiving, and I'm like, emotions at its peak.
And suddenly you're zen one day.
Yeah. That you bring just anything that'll happen, and I'd be like, it's okay. It was meant to happen.
Yeah, so the polarities take us into different personalities of us. And literally when you look at a human being, we have a whole community inside us.
Right.
Like there's so many people inside one packet. And we don't even know who we are. So moksha or wholeness is about integrating all of them and becoming one personality.
Mind blown, literally. So many times I'm just mind blown in this podcast. It's crazy. Okay. Couple of questions from quantum physics angle. Or maybe not that. If you can just touch upon that, how our past life memories are kind of also stored. Like, what's the role of collective unconscious in that past life memories that we have? Because I think since all of us are connected, and a lot of things, like we said, that, we all impact each other, there must be a lot of things that we did together, happened together. And so what's the role of collective unconscious in our memories?
The role of collective unconscious shows up as collective shadows, like wars, where collective mishaps are happening. So, and they're only happening to those people who are carrying those shadows within their memories. Like for people living in a war zone. Now they've signed up with a collective contract in that particular zone. And that's why they are suffering and other people are not.
So that means that if someone is born in a particular country which is about to go to war, is because that
they have the energy of that collective in them as an unprocessed memory.
Oh my God. That's huge. Okay. So that means that if someone died in a natural calamity with a lot of other people, now when that would have struck them, there can be the emotion of fear when that is happening, right? And I'm sure most of the people, 80% of the people would have that emotion of fear, right?
Yes.
So when they sign up again for this life, they can be at a location, or, they can be a part of something, a project, a war, that would kind of trigger that emotion even further.
Again. However, at that given moment, they will have a choice to even heal it. See, that's where the, free will comes into play, right? But if I'm not aware, then I'll continue staying there and then suffer. And I'm going on living in that karmic loop again and again and again till I don't make a choice to break that cycle. Nobody's going to break it for you. The sad part is we're all waiting for one Santa Claus to come one day and break our karmic cycles. But nobody's going to come to save you. You got it. This is your soul's contract. You got to do it. And that's where free will and awareness comes into play. Where I become aware and I say, okay, no more of this abuse. I'm not going to take this and I'm going to change my destiny now. And the moment I stand up, my lessons are learned and I break the cycle of karma.
Do you want to touch upon, or will it be too intense for people to understand non-locality and soul groups and its connection to past life regression?
So our soul is a non-local entity frozen in a local time and space. Right? And when I understood this, I actually felt a lot of sympathy for my soul. Imagine an infinite soul, total non-local, the all, trying to fit into
a timeline,
into this body.
Oh my God.
With so much of density. How painful would that be for my soul? Right? And how is it related to my karma? If I love my soul, then I have to release all that density so that I can give space in my body for my soul to exist.
Suddenly now I'm feeling so compassionate towards myself.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, actually, I was in this meditation once and I suddenly blew out of my body and I saw how infinite we are. And then suddenly it was time to come back into locality, into this time space, and I had to shrink myself to fit into this. And it didn't feel good for me.
It's like going from here to
then
back here.
I said the least I can do if I love myself is at least जो ये कचरा मेरे body के अंदर है karmic density उसको तो clear करके हम at least let me clear this and give enough space for my soul to exist in this body. So imagine fitting something so big into such a small box. You understand what I'm saying? Now, our soul is supposed to fit into the empty space between our atoms and molecules. So, I am not my atoms and molecules. I am the empty space that flows in between my atoms and molecules. Now, in that empty space, if karmic baggage is trapped, imagine how suffocating it is for my soul to flow through that.
Congested.
Yeah. Traffic jam.
Yeah.
So then, karmic densities, healing that is like the most compassionate thing you could do to your soul.
And does that also mean that because my soul has to kind of be in that congested environment and what it is feeling would also manifest outwards? And
Absolutely, yes. See, as within, so without, as above, so below. The outer field, the quantum field is just a mirror reflecting what's inside you. So if there's congestion inside, all your life will attract only congestion everywhere. Or trapped energy or densities or whatever.
Since you spoke about this, what would you like to tell audience? Because I feel that this first step is self-compassion and, having that love for yourself and honoring yourself to be able to come to that acceptance and awareness, right? What would be that note that you'd like to leave audience with? It can be like a hard truth, it can be a revelation, it can be a shock bomb that you'd like to give that can inspire them to literally honor themselves and honor the being that is there in them.
So, the first thing I'd like to tell everyone is self-love comes with a lot of responsibility and commitment. Responsibility for your soul. And to recognize that your soul is indestructible, inconceivable. It was there, it will be there, it will last even after you die. So, every action, every emotion that you're feeling in the now moment is shaping up your future destiny or your life even after death. Right? And if you love yourself so much, it's really important to be focused on your cleansing process and not focus on others. Because when you die, you're accountable and answerable for what you gave out. And whatever you give out will come back to you. What they give out will come back to them. So why are we even focusing on what they're giving out? So the attitude of I care about you, but I don't care about what you're giving out, just detaching from them, puts you into the space of honoring your space and just being so alive in the moment and committed to your journey. I think it's another form of spiritual self-love where you recognize, like, I still remember there was this one time when one of my mentors told me that if you could see yourself from the way God sees you, you would touch your own feet.
Oh my God. We don't have those eyes.
And when we come to that level of recognizing who we are, right, I think we would fall in love with who we are.
Oh my God, 100%. And I think everyone around us, right?
We're all living gods on this planet.
Again,
but
that's
it's so,
making me...
because we had nobody tell us that when we were kids. We were just made to believe we are not good enough. We were made to believe that there's something wrong with us. There's something not okay about us. What if there was nothing to be fixed? And I'm just perfect the way I am. And we're all different. And we're all unique. So much freedom to live our life.
Oh my God, I think would-be parents should definitely understand this first to be even, giving birth to a whole new generation.
Yes.
Right? Dr. Raman, this has been, what should I say? I'm just like mind blown at every answer that you gave. Our crew members are like absolutely mind blown. And I think this is one of the first times in our podcast, we have done so many. But first time that we are like, oh my God, at everything that you have said, like literally in awe of it. And I think it is also one of those podcasts where we leave this room with a bit more honor for ourselves and a bit more of self-love and compassion towards ourselves. This is personally, I think definitely it has touched all of us somewhere and it would make that change within us. So thank you so much. I mean, I would love to take this conversation even longer because I think the topic is so exciting, but big gratitude to you for opening your heart and opening all the knowledge that you have with us. And I really hope that anyone who listens to this feels the same way, the way we felt all throughout this conversation. So thank you so much for doing this with us and just more and more power to you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think I loved every bit of it too.
And for everyone who's watched this podcast, please don't forget to subscribe our channel. And if you think that, you know someone who might find their answers through this episode, please don't forget to share it with them. And we will keep coming back with more such exciting topics. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.